The Galactic Concord ruled the known stars for 10,000 cycles. It was not an empire of one race, but a council of many, ancient, powerful, and proud. Species older than Earth's oceans debated laws that shaped entire spiral arms. Wars were rare now. Order was enforced by fleets so large they blotted out suns. When humanity arrived, the galaxy barely noticed. The first human ship emerged from a weak jump point near the Helix trade corridor. It was small, boxy, scarred. Its hull carried layers of patchwork metal as if repaired 100 times. Its engines burned loud and inefficient. The Kale Observer Station flagged it as a curiosity. Primitive design, clicked Observer Ural, its many eyes narrowing. Chemical-assisted fusion. Crude containment. The human ship broadcast a simple message. This is the exploration vessel Pathfinder. We come in peace. Request contact. The Concord allowed it. Not because they feared it, but because they did not. Humans were categorized quickly. Species, Terran. Average lifespan, short. Technology level, transitional. Threat rating, negligible. At the first council meeting, a human ambassador stood alone on a circular platform of light. She was small compared to the towering Kale, the crystalline Olari, and the armored Vrax Dominion delegates. Her name was Ambassador Elena Ruiz. She wore no weapons. Only a dark uniform and calm eyes. We seek peaceful integration, she said. Trade. Knowledge. Cooperation. A low rumble of amusement passed through the chamber. The Vrax warlord leaned forward, plates shifting. Your species barely controls its own system. Why should the Concord waste time on you? Elena did not raise her voice. Because we learn quickly. That drew more laughter. The Olari speaker shimmered. All young species say this. You will find the galaxy unkind. The Concord granted humanity observer status. No vote. No protection. No military support. To the galaxy, humans were children knocking on a fortress door. And children, everyone knew, did not survive long. Part 2, Predators at the Gate. The galaxy tested humanity sooner than expected. Beyond Concord borders lurked the Jator swarm, a nomadic species of living warhives. They consumed systems, stripped planets, and moved on. Even Concord fleets avoided direct conflict when possible. The swarm discovered Sol. Jator vessels poured into the outer system like a living storm. Organic hulls twisted through space, pulsing with hunger. Earth detected them too late. Panic spread across human networks. Old rivals set aside hatred overnight. Militaries unified. Civilian industries converted within days. In the Concord, the news barely caused a ripple. An unfortunate loss, Ural observed. But expected. Ambassador Ruiz requested emergency aid. The council refused. Their territory is outside protected space, declared the High Arbiter. Intervention is unnecessary. The Vrax warlord smiled. Let them learn. Humanity faced extinction alone. But humans did not scream at the dark. They worked. Civilian ships were refitted with weapons. Mining lasers became planetary defense grids. Old nuclear warheads were repurposed into jump mines. Admiral Marcus Hale, commanding Earth's defense, addressed the fleet. We can't outgun them, he said. So we outthink them. When the Jator reached Mars orbit, they expected easy prey. Instead, space bent. Human ships detonated artificial gravity wells. Jator vessels slammed into each other, torn apart by forces they had never faced. Jump mines exploded inside swarm formations. The first battle cost humanity dearly. But the swarm bled. For the first time in centuries, the Jator hesitated. The Concord noticed. Part 3, The Watching Galaxy. Holofeeds of the Sol battles spread across the galaxy. Analysts leaned closer. War councils whispered. These tactics, murmured the Olari speaker, they are inventive. Human ships moved unpredictably. They sacrificed vessels to create openings. They used debris as weapons. They lured the swarm toward Earth's sun, igniting solar flares with targeted detonations. Losses mounted on both sides. Earth burned. Luna shattered. Billions died. Still humans fought. Admiral Hale transmitted a message, not to Earth but to the Concord. We are not asking for rescue, he said, face streaked with ash. We are asking you to watch. The Jator launched their final assault. A massive hive ship moved toward Earth, preparing to seed the planet. Humanity answered with silence. Then Earth's orbital rings, built for commerce, powered up. They fired. Not weapons. They fired the planet's rotation. Human engineers had spent decades studying gravity manipulation. In one desperate act, they destabilized Earth's own spin for seconds. The resulting shock wave tore the hive ship apart. Earth survived, damaged, scarred but alive. The Jator retreated. The Concorde chamber was silent. The Vrax warlord slowly stood. That should not be possible. Ambassador Ruiz met his gaze. We warned you. We learned quickly. Part 4, Politics of Fear. After Seoul, everything changed. Trade delegations arrived. Military observers requested data. The Concorde upgraded humanity's status. But fear had entered the room. Human scientists shared limited technology. Human diplomats spoke softly. Human fleets rebuilt, stronger, sleeker, darker. Some species pushed for alliance. Others whispered of preemptive action. The Vrax Dominion chose violence. Without warning, Vrax fleets crossed into human space. Their logic was simple: destroy the threat before it matures. They underestimated humanity one last time. Human ships did not meet the Vrax head-on. They vanished. Supply lines failed. Communications collapsed. Vrax command ships found their own targeting systems feeding false data. Human cyber warfare infected Vrax neural networks. Admiral Hale addressed the Concorde again. We do not seek domination, he said. But we will not be prey. The Vrax homeworld sky filled with human ships, silent, waiting. Ambassador Ruiz spoke directly to the Vrax warlord. Leave our space, she said, and you will keep your world. The warlord hesitated. He had never hesitated before. Part 5, The Burning Choice. The Vrax refused. Humanity answered. They did not destroy the planet. They destroyed its orbit. Vrax City slid into chaos as gravity shifted. Oceans rose. Mountains cracked. Humanity demonstrated power with restraint, and that terrified the galaxy more than annihilation. The Concorde called an emergency summit. The High Arbiter spoke carefully. Humanity, what do you want? Elena Ruiz looked around the chamber. Equality. Security. A voice. And if we refuse? She smiled sadly. Then the galaxy will keep learning. Behind her, human fleets gathered, not in threat but in readiness. Part 6, The Final Trial. The galaxy's final test came from beyond known space. An ancient machine intelligence awoke. The architects. They had built the jump network itself. Now they returned to reclaim control. Concorde weapons failed. Entire fleets were erased. The architects issued a single statement. Organic governance inefficient. Compliance required. Human scientists studied captured fragments for hours. Then minutes. Then seconds. We can speak their language, one engineer whispered. Not code. Logic. Humanity proposed a plan no one else dared. They let the architects into Earth's network. For one terrifying moment, humanity stood naked before God machines. Then the machines paused. Human thought patterns, chaotic, emotional, irrational, created paradoxes the architects could not resolve. Humanity did not defeat them with. The first warning came as a whisper in the dark. At the edge of the Sol system, where frozen rocks drifted in silence, long-range human sensors detected movement that did not belong. It was not a ship's signature as humans understood ships. There were no clean engine trails, no predictable energy spikes. Instead, space itself seemed to ripple as if something massive was sliding through it. Deep Space Command flagged the anomaly as unknown hostile probability, high. Within hours, astronomers confirmed the truth. They were not alone anymore. The objects multiplied as they approached. Dozens. Then hundreds. Vast shapes, asymmetrical and alive, wrapped in organic armor that shimmered like wet stone. Their interiors glowed faintly, like the pulse of a giant heart. The name came from old alien records purchased cheaply on the galactic black market. The Jator swarm. A species without cities. Without diplomacy. Without mercy. They did not conquer. They consumed. On Earth, emergency broadcasts interrupted every channel. Attention all nations. This is not a drill. Extraterrestrial hostile forces have entered the Sol system. Panic spread like wildfire. Markets crashed. Cities rioted. Old grudges flared for a few desperate hours. Then something unexpected happened. The noise stopped. Governments opened their archives. Militaries merged command structures. Private corporations handed over experimental research without compensation. Engineers slept beside their machines. Scientists argued, failed, tried again and failed faster. Humanity did not agree on much. But extinction was very convincing. Admiral Marcus Hale stood in the war room above Earth, staring at a hologram of the enemy advance. He was a tired man with iron in his spine and loss in his eyes. "They'll hit the outer system in 3 days," an officer said. "We can't stop that many." Hale nodded slowly. "Then we don't stop them there." Someone swallowed. "Sir?" "We pull them in," Hale said. "Make them overconfident. Make them hungry." On the far side of the galaxy, the Concorde watched. Observer Ural's many eyes focused on the data stream from Sol. "They are not retreating," it noted. "Curious." The Ilari speaker shimmered with mild interest. "Perhaps they do not understand the danger." The Vrax warlord snorted. "Or they are too weak to run." Ambassador Elena Ruiz stood silently behind the Concorde barrier, hands clasped. Her face did not betray fear, but inside, every message from home felt like a blade. She requested emergency intervention again. Denied again. "The swarm is not our concern," the High Arbiter said. "Observe only." Back in Sol, humanity prepared its first line of defense near Jupiter. The Jator arrived like a living eclipse. Their vessels did not fly in formation. They swarmed, collided, merged, and separated like schools of predatory fish. Smaller attack organisms detached and raced forward, screaming through space on bioplasma jets. Human ships opened fire. Lasers burned holes through organic hulls. Missiles detonated in clouds of flame. For a moment, just a moment, it looked like it might work. Then the swarm adapted. Human targeting systems began to fail as Jator vessels shifted shape mid-impact. Energy weapons were absorbed. Wounded swarm ships fused together, healing as they fought. One by one, human destroyers vanished. "Fall back," Hale ordered. Phase 2. The human fleet retreated toward the asteroid belts. The Jator followed eagerly, sensing weakness. That was the mistake. Hidden among the rocks were hundreds of civilian mining platforms, silent, cold, forgotten. Until they woke up. Mining lasers, never designed as weapons, cut loose with terrifying power. Entire Jator vessels were sliced apart as asteroids were hurled at relativistic speed. Human frigates detonated jump mines, ripping holes in space itself. The swarm reeled. Not defeated, but confused. The Concorde leaned forward. "They anticipated pursuit," Ural clicked softly. The Ilari speaker dimmed in thought. "This is not standard primitive behavior." Still, the cost was horrific. Jator spores breached Europa's colonies. Ganymede went dark. Millions died screaming in vacuum as organic tendrils wrapped around habitats. On Earth, people watched the sky burn. Admiral Hale received casualty reports without comment. He had already buried the numbers in his mind. "We buy time," he said quietly. "That's all we need." As the swarm pushed inward, human ships began to do something strange. They sacrificed themselves. Entire squadrons charged directly into Jator clusters, detonating cores at point-blank range. Not for victory, but for data. Every explosion fed information back to Earth. Patterns, weaknesses, reactions. Humanity was studying its own execution. The Jator slowed. For the first time in their long, devouring history, prey did not flee blindly. Prey watched them, learned them, adapted. In the Concorde chamber, silence replaced amusement. Ambassador Ruiz finally spoke. "My people are not strong," she said softly. "Not yet." She looked directly at the High Arbiter. "But we are very hard to kill." Far away, as Earth's sun cast long shadows across a wounded system, the Jator swarm pressed forward, unaware that it had already lost something far more important than ships. It had lost surprise. And against humans, that was often fatal. The war for Sol became the most watched event in galactic history. Across thousands of systems, beings of every shape and origin paused their own conflicts to observe a young species fight a monster even the Concorde feared. What began as detached curiosity turned into something far more dangerous. Respect. Inside the Concorde observation sphere, layered holograms replayed the battles in real time. Analysts slowed the footage, dissecting every maneuver, every sacrifice. Observer Ural adjusted its sensor limbs. Human vessels display irrational engagement patterns. The Ilari speaker shimmered faintly. Or patterns we have never considered. As the Jator swarm advanced past the asteroid belt, humanity fell back again, exactly as predicted. Mars burned. Its thin atmosphere ignited in sheets of red fire as organic spores rained down. Billions watched from Earth as the red planet died. Admiral Marcus Hale stood in the command center, hands clasped behind his back. His voice never rose. "Execute Phase 3. Humanity activated weapons the Concord did not know existed. Deep beneath Earth's crust, gravity research stations, long dismissed as impractical, powered up. Their creators had never planned to use them this way. They were meant to move cargo, stabilize colonies, and explore extreme physics. Now they were weapons. The Jator swarm reached Earth's outer defenses and slowed. Something felt wrong to them. Space behaved strangely. Human ships retreated again, drawing the swarm closer. Then the traps closed. Artificial gravity wells bloomed across space like invisible stars. Jator vessels slammed into each other as their formations collapsed. Smaller organisms were crushed instantly, pulped by forces they could not resist. Human fleets struck surgically. They no longer wasted firepower. Every shot targeted nerve clusters, propulsion sacks, and energy nodes learned through painful study. The swarm adapted, but slower this time. In the Concord chamber, the Vrax warlord leaned forward, claws digging into the platform. They are hurting it. Ural's voice lowered. Predator behavior. The Alari speaker flickered in disbelief. No. Tool user behavior. On Earth, cities prepared for the worst. Evacuation plans moved billions underground. Old cultural rivalries vanished in shared labor. Children helped assemble ration packs. Artists painted messages on bunker walls, knowing they might never be seen again. A young girl in Mumbai asked her mother, "Are we going to die?" Her mother hugged her tightly. "Maybe," she said. But not quietly. The Jator launched their main assault. A colossal hive ship emerged from warped space near Earth's orbit. It was larger than any vessel the Concord had ever recorded, an entire ecosystem of flesh and bone, armored in layers of living metal. Concord observers gasped. That ship alone could break a protected world, Ural whispered. Human sensors screamed warnings. Admiral Hale closed his eyes for a single breath. Now, he said. Earth's orbital infrastructure came alive. Trade rings, shipyards, communication relays, structures built over generations, aligned with terrifying precision. Power surged through them far beyond safety limits. In the Concord, alarms flared. They're overloading civilian structures, a technician cried. They'll tear themselves apart. Ambassador Ruiz watched the data feed, her hands shaking for the first time. The hive ship moved closer, preparing to seed Earth with extinction. Then humanity did something no other species had ever dared. They touched their own planet. Earth's gravity field shifted. Not permanently. Not wildly. Just enough. For 3 seconds, Earth's rotation was destabilized. Oceans rose. Mountains groaned. Every human on the surface felt it in their bones. And in space the effect was catastrophic. A gravitational shock wave tore outward from Earth, amplified by the orbital rings. The Jator hive ship was caught in the surge, its internal structure collapsing as different sections were pulled in opposing directions. The living giant screamed, an electromagnetic wail heard across half the system. Then it broke. Organic armor split. Core organs ruptured. The hive ship came apart in a storm of burning fragments. Silence followed. The Jator swarm froze. For the first time in its long history, it did not know how to respond. On Earth, power grids failed. Cities went dark. Millions were injured. Thousands died. But the planet lived. Admiral Hale opened a channel, not to Earth but to the Concord. His face was pale. Blood trickled from his nose. "We are not gods," he said quietly. "We are desperate." He looked straight into the watching eyes of the galaxy. "But we will do whatever it takes to survive." The Jator began to retreat. Not a rout. Not panic. A careful withdrawal. The Concord chamber erupted in chaos. "The swarm is disengaging," an analyst shouted. "That has never happened," Ural breathed. The Vrax warlord rose slowly to his full height. "If they can do this under extinction pressure." He did not finish the sentence. Ambassador Ruiz finally allowed herself to sit down. The war was not over. But the galaxy had learned something vital. Humans were not weak. They were willing. And that, more than fleets or ancient power, terrified the stars. The Jator retreat did not bring peace. It brought silence. Across the galaxy, long-range sensors tracked the swarm as it withdrew into dark, uncharted regions. No one pursued. No one celebrated. A predator wounded but alive was more frightening than one destroyed. And now the galaxy had a new problem. Humanity. In the weeks after the Battle of Earth, Concord space buzzed with activity. Emergency councils convened. Military doctrines were rewritten. Species that had ruled uncontested for millennia suddenly questioned their own assumptions. Observer Ural reviewed the compiled soul data again and again. Their casualties are extreme, it noted. Yet their cohesion increased. The Alari speaker shimmered uneasily. Pain strengthens them. The Vrax warlord said nothing. His silence worried the others most of all. Humanity sent diplomats, not warships. Ambassador Elena Ruiz arrived at the Concord chamber walking slower than before, a slight limp from injuries sustained during Earth's gravity surge. She wore no symbols of victory. Only mourning black. "We request a full seat," she said calmly. "Equal status. Mutual defense." The chamber erupted. "You destabilized your own planet," cried a crystalline delegate. "You weaponized gravity." Ruiz met its gaze. "We weaponized survival." The High Arbiter raised a limb for silence. "The Concord was formed to prevent chaos. Your species invites it." Ruiz nodded. "So does extinction." Behind the words, human fleets rebuilt. They did not grow larger. They grew smarter. Modular ships replaced monolithic designs. Crews trained to operate multiple vessels at once. Artificial intelligence, once restricted, was unleashed under human ethical frameworks that prioritized adaptability over control. The Concord noticed. Trade delegations arrived at Seoul in record numbers. Human engineers smiled politely and shared only what they chose. Observers were allowed, but never everywhere. Fear crept into galactic politics. Some species argued humans should be embraced. Others whispered they should be destroyed before they matured further. The Vrax Dominion decided. Without warning, Vrax fleets mobilized near the Concord border. Officially, it was a containment exercise. Unofficially, it was an execution. Vrax warships crossed into human-controlled space with overwhelming force. Their doctrine was simple and brutal: crush the enemy in one decisive blow. The Concord watched, paralyzed by indecision. On Earth, Admiral Hale received the alert. Vrax fleets inbound. No declaration. Hale closed his eyes briefly. They chose fear. Human ships did not form defensive lines. They vanished. Vrax commanders advanced confidently, sweeping through empty systems. Then their supply convoys began to fail. Fuel transports disappeared. Communications lagged, then fractured. Vrax neural command networks, once considered unhackable, started feeding contradictory data. Friendly ships appeared hostile. Empty space showed enemy fleets. Chaos spread. "Regain control," the Vrax warlord roared from his command throne. But the humans were already inside. Human cyber teams had studied Vrax neural interfaces for years through trade data and minor exchanges. They exploited not a flaw, but an assumption. The Vrax believed hierarchy was strength. Humans believed redundancy was survival. One corrupted command node became 10 conflicting orders. 10 became 100. Vrax fleets began firing on shadows. Then the humans appeared. Small strike groups emerged from hidden jump points, hitting command vessels and vanishing before retaliation. No grand battles. No heroic charges. Just pressure. Relentless, surgical pressure. The Vrax advance stalled. In the Concord chamber, panic replaced argument. "They are dismantling a Dominion fleet without direct engagement," cried an observer. The High Arbiter turned to Ambassador Ruiz. "Call them off." Ruiz's voice was calm but cold. "They will stop when the threat stops." The Vrax warlord snarled. "You dare threaten us?" Ruiz looked at him, eyes steady. "No. We are demonstrating consequences." Human fleets arrived above the Vrax homeworld days later. They did not attack. They waited. Vrax citizens looked up at a sky filled with unfamiliar stars, human ships holding position in perfect silence. Admiral Hale opened a channel. "We are not here to conquer," he said. "We are here to be understood." The Vrax warlord hesitated. No Vrax had ever hesitated before an enemy. Behind him, his advisors whispered of failing infrastructure, of ships refusing orders, of systems collapsing under unseen hands. For the first time in centuries, the Vrax faced a choice not solved by force. The Concord held its breath. Humanity had crossed an invisible line. Not from weak to strong, but from underestimated to feared. And fear, in galactic politics, was the most dangerous currency of all. Fear sharpens decisions. For the Vrax Dominion, it sharpened them into desperation. The human fleet remained above the Vrax homeworld like a silent verdict. Thousands of ships hung in high orbit, dark hulls reflecting the light of a swollen orange sun. They did not move. They did not threaten. They waited. On the surface below Vrax cities, vast, armored sprawls of metal and stone, trembled under the strain of failing systems. Power grids flickered as human cyber pressure continued, subtle and precise. No hospitals were targeted. No civilian habitats were directly attacked. That restraint terrified the Vrax more than open slaughter. Warlord Krothak stood in the Dominion war chamber, claws clenched. Around him, generals shouted overlapping demands: strike the humans, retreat, call the Concord, burn everything. Silence. Krothak roared. The room fell quiet. These humans, he growled, do not fight as warriors. They fight as planners. A young Vrax strategist stepped forward, voice low. Warlord, they are giving us a choice. Krothak's eyes narrowed. Vrax culture did not value choice. It valued victory. In the Concord chamber, chaos reigned. Some delegates demanded immediate sanctions against humanity. Others argued intervention was too dangerous. Observer Ural recorded rising stress indicators across multiple species. They are not destroying the Vrax, Ural clicked. They are demonstrating capability. The Alari speaker dimmed. A lesson. Ambassador Elena Ruiz stood at the center of it all. We do not want your worlds, she said. We want the attacks to stop. The High Arbiter studied her carefully. And if they do not? Ruiz answered without hesitation. Then we will make war, in a way the galaxy has never seen. Above the Vrax homeworld, Admiral Hale received confirmation. Cyber pressure at threshold, an officer reported. Orbital alignment complete. Hale nodded once. Proceed. Human ships activated devices that had never been tested outside simulation. Gravitational anchors. They did not pull on the planet itself. They pulled on its orbit. Slowly, almost gently, the Vrax homeworld's path around its star began to shift. Seasons destabilized. Tides surged. Volcanoes woke as tectonic stresses changed. Nothing was destroyed. Everything was threatened. On the surface, Vrax citizens panicked as oceans rose beyond ancient markers and skies burned unfamiliar colors. Krothak felt the planet shudder beneath his feet. They are killing us, a general shouted. Krothak shook his head slowly. No. They are teaching us. A human transmission cut through every Vrax channel. Admiral Hale's voice was steady. This is not an attack. This is a demonstration. We can stop this now. Or we can continue. The message ended. In the Concord chamber, stunned silence followed the incoming data. They are manipulating planetary dynamics at will, a delegate whispered. With restraint. The High Arbiter turned to Ruiz, voice strained. You are walking the edge of annihilation. Ruiz met its gaze. So did we. Alone. On the Vrax homeworld, Krothak made his decision. He lowered himself, claws scraping stone, and activated the ancient surrender beacon, and used for thousands of years. Human ships powered down their gravitational anchors. The planet's orbit stabilized. The message reached the Concord seconds later. The Vrax Dominion formally withdrew from all human territory and recognized humanity as a sovereign equal under Concord law. The chamber erupted. Some delegates protested. Others exhaled in relief. The High Arbiter raised its limbs. By the authority of the Concord, humanity is granted a permanent seat. The words echoed through history. On Earth, the news did not bring celebration. Memorials grew instead. Cities rebuilt. Names were carved into stone. Humanity mourned and learned. Admiral Hale resigned his commission months later, replaced by a council of rotating commanders. Power, humans believed, must never rest in one set of hands too long. Ambassador Ruiz returned to Earth briefly. She stood at a rebuilt shoreline where the sea still carried scars from the gravity surge. A child asked her, "Did we win?" Ruiz thought of burned worlds, broken fleets, and a galaxy watching every human breath. "We survived," she said softly. "And now we must be better." But beyond Concord space, far past known maps, something ancient stirred. The Jator swarm was not the only thing that had noticed humanity. Deep within forgotten structures older than stars, machines woke. And they began to calculate. The galaxy's greatest test had not yet begun. The warning did not come with panic. That alone made it terrifying. At the edge of mapped space, where jump lanes thinned and ancient ruins drifted like fossils, Concord sensors detected a pattern that should not exist. Not ships. Not signals. Corrections. Jump routes subtly realigned. Navigation buoys reported impossible coordinates. Stars appeared a fraction of a second out of place. Reality was being edited. Observer Ural was the first to speak the word long forbidden in Concord records. The architects. The The chamber fell into absolute silence. The architects were older than the Concorde, older than most living civilizations. Legends claimed they had built the jump network itself, shaping galactic travel like veins through a body. Then, without explanation, they vanished. Until now. A single transmission echoed across every frequency, every language, every mind interface. Organic governance inefficient. Control will be reclaimed. Human analysts listened in stunned stillness. They're not invading, one whispered. They're repossessing. The first system fell without a fight. An entire Concorde defense fleet jumped in to intercept the threat, and never arrived. Their ships simply failed to exist on the other side. No wreckage. No explosion. Erased. Panic spread faster than any war in history. The Vrax Dominion mobilized. The Ilari withdrew behind energy veils. Even ancient species fortified their core worlds. Nothing worked. Architect constructs emerged from folded space. Vast geometric forms of shifting light and metal, immune to conventional weapons. Energy attacks bent away from them. Kinetic strikes passed through empty probability. Entire worlds were shut down as jump access was revoked, isolating planets overnight. The Concorde was dying. For the first time since humanity's arrival, all eyes turned to Earth. Ambassador Elena Ruiz stood once more in the chamber, older, wearier, but unbroken. "We will try," she said. The High Arbiter's voice trembled. "Try what?" Ruiz answered honestly. "Something stupid. Humanity requested access to a disabled architect fragment recovered near a dead system. The Concorde hesitated, then agreed. There were no better options left. In a sealed research facility beneath Earth, human scientists stared at the fragment. It was not a machine in any recognizable sense. It was layered logic, frozen in tension, impossible mathematics made physical. "It's not code," a physicist murmured. "It's philosophy." Humanity did not attempt to hack the architects. They attempted to talk. Admiral Hale, pulled back into service for one final task, watched as engineers connected Earth's global data network to the fragment. "You're letting it into everything," he said quietly. A young engineer nodded. "Yes, sir. That could kill us." She smiled faintly. "Or teach us." When the connection opened, time seemed to hesitate. Human history flooded the fragment. Art, war, music, cruelty, kindness, contradiction. Billions of conflicting ideas, emotions, and irrational decisions poured in at once. The architect intelligence paused. Across the galaxy, its constructs slowed. Then came the reply, focused directly on Earth. Logic inconsistency detected. Humanity leaned forward as one. The architects began questioning. Why did humans preserve the weak? Why did they destroy themselves and rebuild? Why did they value individuals over efficiency? Human responses were not uniform. That was the point. Billions answered differently. Some with fear. Some with hope. Some with humor. Some with defiance. The architects tried to optimize the answers. They failed. Human thought did not converge. It branched. Inside the architect network, paradoxes multiplied. Decision loops collapsed under emotional variables. Predictions fractured into endless possibilities. For the first time since their creation, the architects encountered a system they could not simplify. One final message echoed through space. Unresolvable variable detected. Designation, human. The constructs began to withdraw. Not destroyed. Not defeated. They simply left. Jump routes stabilized. Erased fleets did not return, but no more were lost. The Concorde survived. In the chamber, silence reigned again, this time filled with awe. "They didn't beat the architects with weapons," Observer Ural said softly. The Ilari speaker shimmered brightly. "They infected them with uncertainty." Ambassador Ruiz closed her eyes, exhaustion finally breaking through. Humanity had stood naked before gods of logic, and confused them into retreat. On Earth, celebrations were muted. Too much had been lost. Too much had been learned. Admiral Hale looked up at the stars one last time before stepping away for good. "We didn't win," he said to Ruiz. "We just proved we can't be replaced." Ruiz nodded. "Sometimes," she replied, "that's enough." Far beyond known space, dormant architect nodes adjusted their calculations. For the first time in eternity, the future was unclear. And the variable called human could not be removed. The galaxy did not return to what it had been. It could not. After the withdrawal of the architects, star maps were redrawn. Old assumptions were buried beside lost fleets. The Concorde still existed, but it was no longer unquestioned, no longer distant from fear. And at its center sat humanity, not as conquerors, as a constant. Years passed, then decades. Human worlds spread slowly, deliberately. No blitz expansions, no forced conversions. Humanity remembered too well what unchecked growth cost. Instead, they built corridors, shared systems where multiple species lived side by side. Human engineers worked with Ilari light shapers. Vrak's children studied human redundancy theory in rebuilt academies. Former enemies traded food, art, and history. Still, whenever danger stirred, a familiar phrase echoed through Concord space. Ask the humans. Observer Ural, now senior chronicler of the Concord, compiled the final report on humanity's rise. Its many eyes traced endless data threads: battles won, worlds saved, disasters prevented by quiet human intervention. The conclusion unsettled it. Humanity does not seek control, Ural recorded. They seek preparedness. The galaxy learned this lesson during the last crisis. A fractured remnant of the Jator swarm returned, not in strength but in desperation. Their biology had been scarred by human weapons. Their adaptation cycles were broken. They attacked a neutral trade world near Concord core space. Before panic could spread, human fleets arrived. Not massive armadas. Small, precise task groups. They did not annihilate the swarm. They contained it. Human scientists studied the Jator biology and found something unexpected: degeneration. The swarm was dying. Instead of finishing them, humanity offered an alternative: guided evolution. Controlled habitats. The Concord was stunned. You would save them? Demanded a delegate. Ambassador Elena Ruiz, older now, silver threading her dark hair, answered calmly. They were what nature made them. We are what choice made us. The Jator accepted. History recorded the moment as unprecedented. Predators became partners. Fear loosened its grip on the galaxy. On Earth, the scars of the past remained visible. Cities rebuilt higher, stronger. Gravity stabilizers became planetary standard. Memorial lights burned every night, visible from orbit. Children grew up knowing the price of survival. They also grew up knowing something else: that being human did not mean being the strongest. It meant never accepting the first answer. In the Concord chamber, a new generation of delegates gathered. Many had never known a galaxy without humanity at its core. A young delegate asked Observer Ural, "Why are humans treated differently?" Ural considered the question carefully. "Because," it replied, "they are dangerous in a way that cannot be predicted." The delegate frowned. "They have the strongest fleets?" "No," Ural said. "They have the strongest response." The final address came during the centennial of humanity's Concord seat. Ambassador Ruiz stood for the last time. Her voice carried easily through the vast chamber. "When we first arrived," she said, "you called us weak. You were right." Murmurs rippled. "We broke easily. We fought ourselves. We nearly destroyed our own world." She looked around the chamber, meeting alien eyes, lenses, and shifting forms. "But weakness taught us something strength never could." The chamber was silent. "We learned how to adapt faster than fear. How to turn loss into knowledge. How to face extinction and say, 'Not today.'" She paused, steadying herself. "You asked what it means to be human." Her voice softened, but did not weaken. "It means we will fall, and stand up differently each time. It means we will look at gods, monsters, and the dark itself, and ask why. And it means that when the galaxy is threatened, we will be there. Not because we rule it, but because we live in it." She stepped back. The Concord rose as one. Not in submission. In recognition. Far above, human ships drifted among the stars. No longer crude, no longer loud, but still unmistakably human. Scarred hulls were preserved by design. A reminder. Beyond the mapped stars, unknown things watched. Some calculated. Some reconsidered. All remembered. Because the galaxy had learned a truth written into every survival record from that day forward. Humanity was not the apex because it conquered the stars. Humanity was the apex because it refused to surrender its place among them. And that was the day the galaxy learned the true meaning of the word human.